Hi everyone, it's Josh from CryptOx here, and I'm delighted to be joined by Rodrigo, who is the CEO and co-founder of Moonray, which can be best described in my words as a incredibly futuristic sci-fi game built on blockchain that is also an RPG role-playing game. So it's great to be with you today, Rodrigo.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
To start off, could you please give us a quick bit of background on yourself and on the project Moonray that you're working on?
Yeah, perfect. I mean, my background is math and computer science. That's what I studied in school. And then I just did various businesses over the year, always kind of entrepreneurial. And 3 years ago, I wanted to get into gaming. So I started learning how Unreal Engine works. 2 years ago, I started putting together this studio and started working on Moonray. And really, I wanted to make something that was just different. I'm just a little bored with, a lot of games now, just the themes. It's kind of like the same themes over and over. It's like medieval, or near future sci-fi, and that's cool. And there's definitely a market for that, and I play those kind of games, but it's like everyone's doing the same stuff. So I just really wanted to make something like really far future, like really surreal. And I really wanted to imagine what would a really advanced technology look like, like 10,000 years from now, 20,000 years from now. And I think a really advanced technology will look much more simple. I think it'll be very organic. I don't think that we'll be making things out of panels and pieces, like with nuts and bolts and screws. I think that's kind of rather primitive. And so that's kind of what we want to imagine with Moonray. Like a really advanced technology will just kind of like everything. There won't be any distinction between mechanical, and man-made, or mechanical and organic. I think everything will just kind of blend together. So it'll be more like, things are grown or like organically grown or 3D printed, but structures that appear very simple. No panels, or if there are panels, it's just purely for decoration, but like things that are just kind of made out of one piece. So that's the core idea of the game, that there's an element, and this element is like the energy source, and it's embedded in everything to various degrees, and that's how they can shape, in this world, anything out of this element. So yeah, that was kind of like, like my inspiration. I like to follow UFOs a lot. I think it's, and if you follow like the UFO subject, especially the stuff that's happening now, like when I see things like the reports of, flying pyramids, buzzing Navy destroyers, off the coast of San Diego, which happened like last year or something, that to me sounds like an advanced technology, like something that shouldn't be aerodynamic, has no visible means of propulsion. It's just a pyramid, and it's flying around. It's like, that's real technology, not like the kind of stuff we have where it's, we're burning gasoline with thrusters and, you can count the rivets on it, from a photograph. So that's kind of what we're doing.
Okay, so I don't think I've ever heard of a game that's had that sort of vision in mind from the get-go. There's always, some games will bring some sort of futuristic technology. It might be, Call of Duty. I think it was Black Ops 2. They had people jumping around and stuff, but it was always within the same parameter of, just a few steps on from the model world.
Yeah, it's 200 years from now. That's all it is. It's like we have a Tesla Model 10. It's like, okay, we already have Teslas. I know what that looks like. I don't care about what it's going to look like 50 years from now. That's not really interesting. Like I care about like what happens when you have total control over matter, like in which we will have at some point. Then I think it starts to get cool. So yeah, that's kind of like that's why I started doing this. And then in the technology that we have now with game engines and GPUs, I mean, it's just getting so powerful. The 3D pipelines are just so cool. The talent that's out there is incredible. But it's just like everyone's making, like wizards and orcs and stuff. And it's like, again, there's a place for that. I play those games, but it's like, I don't know, like I don't have to see like my 10th dragon. I know what a dragon looks like, like give me something new, basically. So that's what we're doing. So we're building an alliance now with like all sorts of artists. For me, it's a lot of fun because I talk to these artists. Some of them are already like NFT artists, and they're doing like really cool, like surreal 3D stuff. And we'll be making a few announcements over the next coming weeks of the first artists that are going to work with us that will be doing like designer series NFT drops. But there's a lot of people exploring really interesting like visual areas. And right now, a lot of them are selling NFTs, and they're selling basically JPEGs. And so we're going to start working with artists like that to say, hey, we're going to make a game ready version of your art, and I think it's going to look really cool. So it's not just going to be Moonray doing NFT drops, but there's just a ton of talent out there. And what I found is if you go to like the right artists and you just say, listen, just go crazy and think of something new. Like, don't give me an orc. Don't give me, a spaceship that looks like the kind of spaceship that we can already make. Just do something actually new. And then they start really they start having fun, So that's what we want to do. Like, just really imagine something that's way out there. And if it's, I don't even think, like, for example, I don't even really like the idea of vehicles because like in our game, I don't know if we're even gonna have vehicles. Like we have like fast travel, like if you want to really zoom around the landscape, but the way we have it right now is that you just turn into like a flock of particles. and then you fly wherever you want really fast, and then you reform into a humanoid shape. Like, I think that's much more advanced than like getting in like a little, like a Segway scooter and like zipping around over the landscape. Like, that's just kind of lame, as far as I'm concerned. Or like the next thing that I really want to do is like let you transform into a centaur. Like, that would be cool. Like, that's a way to run around. Like, you want to run fast, like give me the body of a centaur, let me run real fast and then turn back into a human to fight. Like, that's technology, not like check out this cool spaceship and you can fly 200 miles an hour. Like, it's kind of boring.
Yeah, definitely not something that we've all heard before.
Yeah, but we're having fun. And the thing is, you can do, the technology that we have now with game engines, like if you can imagine it, like you could probably pull it off. So it's like, we just have to start imagining like new things and not the same themes over and over and over.
So you touched on an interesting point there. How are you going to integrate NFTs into the game?
So, initially we don't want to mess with the gameplay mechanics, right? So the gameplay has to be like, we've got to get the gameplay right. And we don't want to do like a pay to win where it's like whoever has the most money gets the coolest swords and stuff like that. So we're introducing the game next year, Q1, as an early access release on Steam. It's going to be the beginnings of the single player campaign. And then we'll be adding co-op and scaling it up into like a full scale MMO RPG, but we're going to do that with a game that you can download and play. So we're getting feedback from people. The NFT drops will start this year, and it's going to be, initially mostly visual. So it's going to be like character skins, weapons, the magic system in the game, like the way we do spells, it's all with real-time algorithms that deform the landscape. It's like we can turn the landscape into a fluid. So it'll be like different unique looks of what that fluid deformation looks like. We can make tons of those because once you have an algorithm implemented, you mess with the variables a little bit, and they're very like non-linear equations. So you can get really crazy behavior, and then mess with the color. So we can make a lot of those. So that'll be like one class of NFTs, which is like the kind of spell you cast will melt the landscape in a different way. Over time, we may introduce some gameplay mechanics, but we're going to be really careful with that because again, we don't want to just let someone buy the best sword and then go into a multiplayer death match, and just like, start kicking everyone's butt, and it's like, that's not really fun. The next step after that, when we get the multiplayer city operational, which we hope to be introducing by the end of next year, that's going to be like the multiplayer hub. So it'll be kind of like in Destiny, like you log in and, like get together with your friends and then go on a raid or go into a death match or whatever it is. That's where we'll have land sales. We want to do a whole lot more with land, like you'll be able to customize your land, put buildings on it. It's going to be, the land that you own is going to affect your participation in the DAO. We're going to have a monetary and a governance token, but we're also going to tie land use to that. We're thinking now of doing some sort of like land staking, for like yield farming in the game, which can also affect like the governance mechanism. So there's just a lot of cool ideas and cool ways that we can take this. And right now we're kind of thinking, all right, what we're doing right now, we call it the marathon approach, which is like, just get something started, get feedback from the community, slowly scale up over time, make sure that we're heading in the right way with constant feedback from the community. And then there's a lot of cool possibilities a year out or 2 years out of where we can take this and where blockchain technology is going. And blockchain really is, it's a totally transformational technology, like in general, but in particular with regards to gaming. And there's a lot more that you can do when you integrate blockchain at a deep level. What I'm seeing, the like rumors I'm seeing from what like the big game studios are doing when they look at blockchain, it sounds to me like they think blockchain is just another microtransaction and another form of accepting payment. Like it's, but it's not another credit card, guys. That's not what blockchain is all about. So like, they want to be able to accept crypto as payment for a skin. That's not the point. You can already pay in dollars or in pounds or whatever it is. That's not the point. Blockchain is about giving players ownership so that you actually own your NFT. So if you buy a character skin from us and then you use it for a few months and then you don't like it anymore, you get bored, you sell it. Like, that's your property. You can do whatever you want with it. If you do that now in a game like Fortnite, you buy a skin and then in a month you're bored. That's too bad. They don't give refunds, and there's nothing you can do with it. So, blockchain is just a totally different way of structuring a game, of building community. And you've got to be like, as a studio, much more open to the community because it's like, they will take ownership of it. Right. So that's why, like, I don't see many of the big studios forming a DAO or being comfortable with it and letting the DAO actually start affecting gameplay or affecting how the economy works. They like to own everything, and it's like closed shops and they own all the IP. And it's like, I don't think that attitude is going to work. Not if you want to build a metaverse. Like, a metaverse has to be, people have to participate in it. Like, no one's going to want to rent a game from you. I think that model's dead. So the idea of going to a gamer and saying, pay me $60 and you can play my game, I think that's gone. I think that's over. A few more years, it's going to sound stupid.
So you would say maybe that DAOs and blockchain and gaming would kind of, just like in other business models, go from a transition where you have now, the big games companies that, like you say, they can charge you $60 a year, £60 a year for basically the same version of the same game with a few updates, going from a sort of feudal model to now where it's civic, where everyone gets to contribute and you're actually a valued member of a community.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And then you'll take part in how the community grows. So we see what we're building now, like this action RPG that we're building now, it's just the first version of gaming that's going to be in Moonray. Like in 5 years from now, the game interaction, the game experience could be totally different. And it's the DAO that's going to determine that, right? And like, that's when you start to have a real metaverse. Like right now, the game is our initial product. It's our hook. It's what's going to get people in. It's like how we're going to scale and get the mainstream gamer adoption. But over time, like the real heart of what we're doing is going to be the capital city. It's going to be the multiplayer city where the DAO is really like the main, active component of that. That's when you have a real metaverse. And then from there, okay, if you're into action gaming, step through the portal, go into whatever, travel to the land of whatever. And that's where you have the action gaming. Maybe there could be other types of gaming that you're interested in and that people will come up with. And that could be, okay, go to another land and the gameplay interaction is a little bit different. Like from there, we just let things evolve. But it's like, you just have to, like evolve it with your community and just listen to them and see what's the kind of game, like, we have kind of some ideas, but, I don't know, people really say, hey, we love this like multiplayer mission, do more of this. It's like, okay, that's what people want. That's, then that's what we'll do. So we're going to be very, very open. And over time, we're going to be, we want to transition into being more of a platform than a game. So, one of the things that we're going to introduce is like a beta server and a live server when we have the multiplayer city. The beta server is going to be like the Wild West. We're going to open it up to the modding community. Any ideas that you have, you'll be able to do a game mod, play around with skins. You want to do like a different level, do whatever you want. It doesn't really, like we just let everyone experiment. And then the DAO is watching what's happening on the beta server. And when we see cool ideas, we vote it into the live server. We bring it into the capital city, like if it meets standards and if the DAO wants it. That step is probably going to be some sort of NFT minting, step that, you as the modder or as the artist or whatever it is do. So then that's something that you actually own. And if you want to sell it, if you want to rent it out, you can have your own business. So we want people to be able to make their own business inside of Moonray, right? So then over time, it's kind of like, how will that grow? Like, I have no idea. It's going to be like a dynamic interaction between us and the community. But I think that's the only way to make a real metaverse. Like if you want to control it all, it's just not going to work and it's going to get boring.
Yeah, it seems to me that the most way to sort of unleash everyone's creative potential is by doing the complete opposite of what a lot of these big games companies do. It seems more like a Soviet Union approach that they have. Everything's top down. There's no ability for someone to just come up with a good idea and then go with it. And it seems to me that the future definitely is decentralized in lots of domains, but especially in gaming. You've seen if Axie Infinity is just the beginning, then who knows where it'll go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like it's kind of like, taking an open source approach, to gaming. I mean, that's the fundamental basics of blockchain as well. It's decentralized, it's open source. And we're going to be a little bit the same with our platform. I mean, everything within limits, right? I mean, like, there's got to be some control, but that's what the DAO is there for, So if you want to participate in the DAO, that's where the governance token comes in. That's where, owning land in the multiplayer city comes in. That's how you become more involved in like the political side of things. But then people who maybe aren't so into action gaming or whatever kind of gaming, we end up doing, maybe you just hang out in the capital city and take part in the politics. Maybe you're just hanging out. Something like this is going to be the social media of the future. I think we can all kind of see it coming. Facebook can see it coming. That's why they're talking about metaverse. We'll see what they can do. But I mean, over time, it's like no one's going to want to interact, in a glorified chat room on some website. It's just going to be kind of boring, especially with the kind of graphics we have. And just wait till VR. I think 2 or 3 more generations of VR, and it's game over. Like, yeah, no thanks. I'm not chatting in some chat room. I'm putting my goggles on.
I was literally about to ask just before you said that about VR, how you see that integrating with games like Moonray and things like sort of metaverse platforms, because like you say, Facebook have Oculus, but they don't seem to have done that much with it. And what would happen when, like you say, the mass adoption, there's a lot of mainstream use of these things and the technology can scale as a result?
I mean, that's the future. I mean, that's where things are going. Like, you know, we're building on Unreal Engine because we want to be ready to deploy to wherever the technology goes. And Unreal Engine for us is like a great technology for, you know, like when the consoles open up their business models, which they'll have to at some point. Like, we know that they're thinking about it, and they're no dummies. You know, they just have to figure out how they're going to handle crypto. We'll deploy the consoles. And when VR is mature enough, the thing is, you know, we don't want to do VR and scale down the graphics, because to me, there's not much point. I mean, VR is really cool now and it's very immersive, you know, but you know, it looks like a generation 1 PlayStation basically. And it's like, okay, it's cool and I can see where it's going, but we got to wait a few more years. But when you have VR, that's like the equivalent of what you can do now with like an RTX 3080, and you can run that in an immersive environment, then like the social interaction of being in a real metaverse is going to get way cooler. So that's definitely where things are going. But it'll be a case where if you have VR goggles, you put them on if you want that, but you're not going to have to. So I think that's going to be, you know, that line is going to be kind of blurry too. It's just going to depend like how immersive you want to get. But if you just want to play it on your PC, you can totally do that. But for the full experience, put on your goggles, and then you're actually walking around in a real metaverse, and then I think it's going to get really cool. But I bet that's still probably like, you know, 4 or 5 years away at least, or something like that, from being really where we would want it to be.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely not there yet, but I think if you look at previous technological changes, it definitely seems to be coming.
It's coming. Yeah, it's definitely coming. I remember when I was a kid, there was a movie called Lawnmower Man, which was like one of the first movies. It's probably like way before your time, like about VR. And I remember thinking, like, you know, and reading about VR, it's like, God, this is gonna be so cool. And then for so long, it's just like, yeah, it's just not happening. It's just not happening. I was like, okay, you know, maybe it's just like, I don't know, maybe we just can't make it. But now you can see it. It's like, okay, it's coming. Like, it's coming. It's just like, now it's just a question of like processor speed and all that good stuff. And you know, Moore's law still seems to be, you know, in effect. So yeah, it's going to come.
So back onto the topic of play to earn more generally, we've seen, you know, there's those headlines about Axie Infinity with the people in the Philippines managing to actually make a sustainable income just from playing a video game. Do you think that is the future of a lot of play to earn? Because we see a lot of people now losing their jobs to things like AI or just you know, different competitive practices the businesses have brought in, especially less skilled jobs. But you know, predictions are that this will carry on in lots of different industries. Do you see that being a sustainable form of income for people in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, how exactly that's going to look, I don't know, but that we have to create new economies. We have to do it, you know, and that's happening. I mean, that's a really good point you brought up. Because you can see, yeah, the wave of automation, it's going to be rough. It's going to be really rough. You know, like right now we're looking in the US, I think truck drivers are the #1 job in terms of like number of people employed. I think it's like 5 million people employed as truck drivers. And it's like, you know, I don't know how much longer is that going to last, you know, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and everything's like automated. It's like, it's going to get really, I think, frightening for a while. You know, every major technological change. I mean, the same thing happened in the Industrial Revolution when, you know, all the weavers were put out of business with, you know, with looms and things like that. We're going to see it, but there are going to be new economies. Like, we don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but we can start to get a glimpse of it. You know, like Axie is showing kind of what that could look like. So I think that being somehow making money in a metaverse is going to be somewhat normal, you know, in the not too distant future. And whether that's pure gaming, it could be, you know, it's a gaming metaverse, but you're not really gaming. Like, you're not necessarily like collecting resources, because, you know, one of the things that we want to do is like integrate blockchain at a very deep level, so that initially gaming is the obvious way to go in, but then there's more that you can do. Like, there's all sorts of like yield farming and financial transactions that you can do. And we're working with a partner of ours called Alex, and they have like a DeFi platform built on Stacks. So they'll be able to take our NFTs and you can turn those into financial instruments. And, you know, if you want to get a loan, you can use it as collateral. It's something that actually has value. So then you can start seeing people, you know, in the metaverse, maybe having basically, it's almost like a finance job, but it's like in a metaverse, right? So it's going to be, I think it's going to start getting really, you know, kind of strange from our perspective now, but in 10 years, it's going to look totally normal. And the kids that are coming up now, that are starting to play, like, they're going to, like, their first gaming experience may be really, you know, like a play to earn game. It's going to be totally normal to them. You know, like anyone that's 8 years old now, like, and they start really playing games in the next 2-3 years, you know, this is going to be like super normal. So by the time they're 20, like being like fully into like an NFT blockchain economy, it's going to be like, yeah, of course, it's obvious. Yeah, like I make money in the metaverse and I'm flipping NFTs and doing this, you know. And right now we're just like, it sounds crazy, but that's going to happen.
It's really interesting because I can remember, it's like you were saying before about paying money for games. I can remember when I was about 15, having saved up so much money, at least so much money at the time, to go and buy Grand Theft Auto 5 when it first came out. And the idea that I wouldn't even have to pay for it and even more than that, I would be able to earn money just by playing it. It seems completely ridiculous now, but if that is the future, then it would be amazing, not only for kids, but even for people who've lost their jobs. And it seems to me that that integration with blockchain as well, because we've also seen things like watch to earn, and there's the basic attention token coming out. It seems to be a way to sort of democratize these platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a really it's also like like disintermediation, right? It's like you can be directly involved and in contact with your fans, or with your users. You don't need too many layers in between you and them. So then you have just much more direct communication. So it really is, in a lot of ways, like a communication technology. It's like a way of enabling different types of interaction, but really with that strong financial layer and that strong security layer. So I totally agree. Like, it's going to really change every industry, to greater or lesser degrees, but like especially industries that are right now like purely digital, like gaming, are going to get totally turned upside down. And how exactly that's going to look, we're not sure. But I do know that if you're not working on that now or thinking about it now, you're in trouble. Like if you're a company and you're not thinking, okay, how's blockchain going to affect us and how we communicate with our customers and things like that, it's going to be a problem.
So you're working on Unreal Engine. That's what you're building Moonray on. You said before. Have you had any contact with other developers in the more mainstream space? Do you have any idea what their approach to everything is at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, right now I think it's still early, and most of the game industry, I don't think they still get it. Everyone still thinks NFTs are like a scam, or it's they don't understand it, right? So like, oh, people writing JPEGs, why would you buy a JPEG? It's like, no, that's not the point. So I think we're like at least a year, maybe 2 years out from people starting to understand what an NFT really is, and how it can be used. And then it's beyond NFTs too. Like, NFTs are the buzzword now, but like there's a lot more that you can do with blockchain, and NFT is like one layer of that. So that's why we're working on how to integrate blockchain at a very deep level into our economy. And that's where things like governance tokens and DAOs are like a totally different approach. Like explaining a governance token and a DAO, it's like a regular gamer is going, right now, like they're not going to get it, but that's going to change 6 months in a year. That's going to start changing. And I think when people start seeing that, then like their eyes will open up to these new possibilities. So the developers, and the publishers, like traditional publishers that we've talked to in the past, when we made the jump into being a blockchain company and a GameFi studio, almost all of them told us, in fact, all of them told us, we don't do crypto. Yeah, we don't do NFTs. So we said, all right, see you later.
And that was that. I suppose it's one of those, I can't remember the exact tweet, but it was something to do with understanding the future means you have to have everyone else judging you beforehand. It was by Naval. I can never be as articulate as him. But...
Yeah, no, it is. And like when you're kind of early, there's obviously a lot of questions, and like, we don't really know how all this is going to necessarily work. I mean, what we know is that we have to like let it grow dynamically and try and guide it, and then just kind of see where things take us. These are like, really complicated, like dynamic interactions between blockchain technology and gaming and fans, and like everything's going to feedback loops. Like, who knows, how that's all going to feed back into each other. But it is going to change everything, and you just have to be watching and just adapting as quickly as you can. And crypto moves so much faster, like even than like regular technology. It's like if you think like tech moves fast, it's like nothing like compared to crypto. I mean, crypto is just like lightning speed, So it's like anyone that's not, I talked to someone that's at a very big, like traditional game publisher studio, and I said, okay, what are you working on? I'm like, oh, we're doing a new FPS. We're 3 months in. I said, okay, so when are you guys launching it? He said, we're doing a closed alpha in 22 months. And I said, that's too late. 22 months from now, I mean, who knows? I mean, we're going to be on, like the next generation of blockchain. I mean, it's like if you're not integrating blockchain right now, you're in trouble.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing the signs that mainstream adoption is starting to come in. I mean, I wrote an article recently about comparing Coinbase to some of the biggest stock markets in the world and the stock exchanges. There was like Deutsche Börse, the Hong Kong Exchange, and one or two others. And it was basically, I know it was during the bull season, but it was basically the same across all of those metrics. Sort of revenue, assets on platform. It was quite astounding, really, because the attitude that people
have. How quickly did that happen? Yeah. It's like it happened like overnight practically.
Yeah, it really is. It was so quick. And if you think about just from 2017, the amount that's changed in the crypto space.
It's crazy. I mean, the way I think about it, sometimes it's as if it's like, we were all like, like in ancient times living on land and you're camping out on land. And then all of a sudden the legal framework for owning land develops. And now you have title to your land, right? That opens up a whole new economy. And one of the problems in third world countries is that they don't have like the strong legal structures where you have title to your land. So you can have people that are living on a plot of land for generations, improving it, building houses on it, building, and improving their house, but they don't have legal title to their land. And if you don't have that, then it limits, like if the land appreciates, you're not getting any of that value. You can't get a loan out against it. Like you can't really sell it. Like you're just kind of occupying it. And that's the way we've been in the digital space up until now. Like you don't really occupy, you don't own any of the digital assets that you thought you owned. And now all of a sudden you actually own those assets. They can be verified on the blockchain. Now you can actually trade them and sell them. And that's why this looks kind of crazy at first, but it's like, no, it makes perfect sense. Like you just figured out how to get like legal title to your assets. So now you can actually sell it and trade it. And that's why these economies, it appears as if they exploded. It's kind of like it was always there. We just didn't have the mechanism for, like making that actually possible, like making those trades safe and possible. And now we do.
Yeah, I couldn't have put it better myself, especially for the developing world, which doesn't have access to that sort of thing and hasn't got that legal framework to act around. But back onto the more sort of granular topic of blockchain specifically for your project, I saw that you're built on Bitcoin. And the first thing I thought was, hold on a minute, how does that work? I wasn't even aware that it was programmable. So would you be able to tell us about that and the decision that you sort of the process behind making that decision?
Yeah, I mean, really, we're developing on Stacks. So Stacks is it's a layer one blockchain. It's been around since around 2017. Their mainnet just went live on January this year. And Stacks is basically a programmable layer for Bitcoin. So it's a layer one blockchain. It functions a lot like a layer two. So you can think of it conceptually as like a layer two, but they have a different consensus mechanism. It's called the proof of transfer consensus mechanism. So basically mining in Stacks works with Bitcoin. So people are basically paying Bitcoin to mine in Stacks. So it's like using Bitcoin as the security layer of a blockchain. So instead of doing proof of work, which Bitcoin's already doing, or doing proof of stake, which other people are doing, you're using the security of Bitcoin to gain security in Stacks. So everything that we do references a Bitcoin block ultimately. So everything that you do on Stacks ultimately reflects on Bitcoin. And to change the Stacks blockchain, you actually have to change the Bitcoin blockchain, which is the hardest blockchain to mess with. So that's how we work with Bitcoin. We're not directly on Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's too slow, but Stacks gives us that programmable layer that we need.
So was there anything particular about Stacks that appealed to you about it? Why not build on something else?
Yeah, and the main reason for that is that we think that long term, Bitcoin has the value in the market cap and the network effect. So making Bitcoin more useful, I think long term, is just a smart move rather than trying to scale up a new blockchain from nothing. Even though I do think that there's going to be plenty of blockchains that can coexist in the future. I think the market is going to be enormous. So what we see is that we really want to get that mainstream crossover. So, we don't want to just appeal to crypto gaming, which right now is exciting, but it's a very small niche. We want to get mainstream gamers interested in what we're doing. So we think for that, you've got to have the right kind of games. There's got to be action. It's got to look cool. It's got to be fun to play. And then getting like regular gamers, to be comfortable with an NFT. I think it's a lot more powerful when you can say this NFT is tied to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is like the reserve currency or like the security layer of these NFTs, because outside of crypto, like no one has heard of the other blockchains, maybe Ethereum a little bit, but everyone knows what Bitcoin is. So we think that that's going to be, important in getting that mainstream, mass adoption, which is what we're aiming for.
Yeah, I think these days, even my grandma knows what Bitcoin is. So it's definitely got that sort of first mover brand name, which helps so much.
Ask her about Solana. There's nothing wrong with Solana. It's a great blockchain, but it's like, she hasn't heard of it.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't think I will ask her. Do you have any gameplay that you'd be able to share with us?
Yeah. You want me to just like drop some clips in? Maybe.
Can you share your screen?
You see that?
Yep. All good.
Okay. Cool. So here you can see this is the like the magic system with the fluid deformations on the ground. Like that's the basis of all the magic in the game. So that's kind of one of the ideas that we have of what like a really advanced technology should look like. You should basically be able to melt the landscape around you. So the gameplay itself, we're kind of doing like a cross between like a Dark Souls type of combat and Devil May Cry. Like those are like two of my favorite games, but the problem with Dark Souls, I love it because it's very thoughtful. It's just so hard, and Sekiro is like an awesome game. I play that a lot, but I'm just not very good at it. And Devil May Cry, I love it and it's really fun, but it's much more of like a narrative kind of game. Right, we'll just play this too. And the combat for me is just too easy. It's like when Devil May Cry, like you just smash the attack button and you can eventually, you can eventually just beat anything. So here's just like a demonstration of like what the magic system is going to look like with us, the fluid simulations and the fluid deformations. Let me bring up some more. Here we go. Let's see. So we're going with like a very kind of like dynamic, type of combat with a lot of movement. Because again, I think if it's the future, like you should be pretty fast. You should be able to basically like fly around. So that's how we're kind of structuring the combat. A lot of movement, very fast paced, but still thoughtful. So you can't just smash the attack button and get through it. Like you're gonna have to think your way through.
Yeah, it definitely looks like there'd be quite a few skills to learn as you pick it up.
Yeah, and we're gonna have upgrade trees and all that kind of stuff where different weapons, each weapon is going to have a different move set and different ways of upgrading it, et cetera, et cetera. So with like special moves per weapon and all that good stuff. So that's the way that we'll be able to just keep increasing like gameplay and different types of gameplay. And that's where we also at some point want to have like the modding community come in with good ideas. And if you're an animator and you make a bunch of cool animations, go ahead and try it out and see how it looks and see how it plays. And again, we're going to be really open.
Yeah, it definitely seems like the type of platform where collaboration will be key, and there'll be so much that can come just from different people with positive inputs. One thing I was going to ask actually was a white paper or tokenomics. I've not actually been able to find any on the website. Is that something?
No, we haven't. Yep, no, we haven't published it yet. I think probably like another 45 days or so, and then we should publish our tokenomic white paper. And that's where we're going to detail kind of like how how the monetary token and how the governance tokens are going to function and interact. It's something also that's going to be very early. So what we publish now is probably going to change a lot. And that's where the DAO is really going to have a lot of power, because there's a lot of things and ideas and potential problems that we're thinking of, but we know that we can't predict. Like, how is this actually going to, in a year from now, how is this going to affect gameplay? It's really tough to predict. So we're going to do what we think is going to work, but that's something that's also going to evolve over time, because fundamentally the tokenomics have to support gameplay. That's what this is about, and the gameplay has to be fun, and then there's potential problems and pitfalls to every type of economic system. We don't want a system where we're having to make too many manual adjustments all the time. So ultimately we'd love a more algorithmic approach, or something where the token system itself, it can dynamically scale based on the number of users that are active in our world. So we don't have problems of like something that's too deflationary or too inflationary, and then like every 3 months we're adjusting fees and things like that. We want to avoid that as much as we can, but this is such a new field, and every potential solution has like another problem that we haven't thought of yet. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that. I think 45 days or so. By the end of November, we'll have it published on the website.
Okay, for sure. We'll make sure to share the link once it's out, and also, of course, the link to all those gameplay videos. It definitely seems like flexibility is in mind in basically every possible way.
Absolutely. I mean, like if you, I don't know, if you think that you can predict what's going to happen a year from now in this industry, then you're insane, basically. Like there's no way to predict. So it's like we just have to be okay. Like we think is going to work. This is good. This is a good strong base, and then we got to kind of see how things shake out and how people start really playing the game and interacting, and like what problems come up. Something weird is going to happen. There's no doubt.
Okay, so I'm wary of time, and it's been quite a sort of very 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 much eye-opening a few minutes talking to you, especially with all the different insights you've come. We've gone from automation to NFTs to all sorts of different things. Just to sort of narrow it down and streamline it for viewers, what would you want people to take away from watching this video? What would be sort of your closing thoughts, if you could put it in a sentence?
Yeah, I mean, what we aim to do is build the first metaverse on Bitcoin. Like I think that's the future. I think Bitcoin is going to be the most powerful blockchain. It just has the network effect, it has the market cap. I don't see anyone really taking them out, even though some people think another one will. You never know what's going to happen. And then a metaverse is the way things are going. And for us, a metaverse is a real 3D environment. It can look very different from, it doesn't have to look like a normal, like modern day kind of, look and feel. Like it can look very strange and out there, but I think it's going to be something where imagination, it's really open to the imagination, and it's something that's very like based on participation, by the public, so it's going to be something where you can really participate and change it and make it your own. And maybe that's just like in your little corner of the metaverse, and you have your land and you're customizing it your way, or you're really participating more in like the political structures and helping to guide the growth. And that's really what we're aiming for. Gaming is a part of it, and right now we're a game company, but I expect that to change over time.
Right now we're a game company, but I expect that to change over time. That's a great final quote. But it's been a pleasure to have you on, Rodrigo, and we'll make sure to keep the community updated with all of the developments in Moonray.
I appreciate it.
Thanks
It was fun. We'll be in touch.
Thanks a lot for your time. Thank you.
Thanks.